Well, Mike, we are back at it after a week off. Welcome into Gridiron Eve, excuse me. This is Mike Huseman. I'm John Vogel, and man, how are we doing, dude?
Good. We're here for bowl season, and it is always an exciting time. There's lots of games, and I feel like with this week, lots of relatively close spreads to pick at.
Mhm.
So there weren't many lopsided games, which is obviously the goal of bowl games is to be competitive. But we're finally here. Yeah, it's good.
And it's almost sad at the same time because these are all the last times we're going to see these guys play this year, and then we have to wait till spring training.
Yeah.
Do you watch spring ball?
When they start the rookie camps and stuff, I'll pay attention to that. So
You know what would be really funny is if we opened up betting lines on spring games this year. That would be hilarious.
it would be an interesting betting concept. Like I feel like the market at first wouldn't know where to start. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. It literally just be like crazy stuff, like just
I feel
pick
like
up.
it would be like the early spring training baseball when you have the split squads and it's guys that are not, have no chance of making the team
Yeah,
that you're gambling on basically.
yeah, that would be wild.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Though.
It would be.
Hey, sports books, just got a golden idea there, so run with it.
Yeah.
The score, Mike, you've trimmed the lead. You've trimmed it. It's 130 to 105 right now.
Yeah. Two weeks ago, or the 2 shows ago, it was 50 and I cut it to 35, and then I picked up 10 on you last week. For those of you out there that don't recall, for conference title week, I started off Friday night well. I won the double challenge against John with Liberty covering against New Mexico State, and then we split Saturday. I had Miami over Toledo, and that got me 5. And then John came back and won the afternoon cap when Alabama covered against Georgia.
Yeah, were you surprised to see that?
Covering not so much, or not as much they covered. I didn't think they would win. Like I thought Georgia would win the game, so I was a little surprised about that. Yeah.
Well, let's look at this week in review because I think the conference championship, it's actually 2 weeks in review technically, but the conference championship games and the Army-Navy game. And I just want to start with the Army-Navy because I'm a huge Army guy, as everybody knows, I'm part of it. So taking down Navy for the second straight year was phenomenal.
Yeah. Close. I guess it ended up being a 1-possession game, but we had the last safety, the last play of the game. So the score might lead us to believe it was closer than it was. Army was clearly the better team. I mean, we always knew the way those two teams play, it wasn't going to be a blowout one way or the other. Army was the better team all year, and they showed that in that game.
Came down to a tush push at the end, and Navy couldn't get it. And that all I had to say about that, that's how you take care of a bunch of psycho crayon eaters. So, going to leave it right there at that.
Okay.
Oregon, were you surprised to see that they didn't do as well against Washington? Win.
I was surprised how poor they came out to start the game. It was, for the first quarter and a half, Washington just took it to them. Oregon, to their credit, got that touchdown before halftime was really big. Then they came out and scored again. But Washington did what they did all year. And I'll be the first to eat crow on this. I remember, there's a month left in the season. I didn't think Washington would get undefeated to the bowl games, and they have. I mean, they played a lot of games where they did not reach their potential and did bad things, and they still won. I'll give them credit for that. And they are solidly – any of the 4 teams could win it now, but they're one of them, and they deserve everything they've gotten.
I thought it was interesting to see that because in the first game, Oregon was the more physically dominant team in the trenches. And to see them come out there and get manhandled by Washington absolutely surprised me. Because I thought that's why I thought Oregon had a legitimate shot at winning this game.
Yes.
Because and actually, I think we both picked Washington to cover because it was like 9.5 points, and we
Yeah,
were
the
like, no
spread was
way,
very big. Yeah,
no way. But um, when you looked at that first game and knowing that they were in Washington when they played it, Oregon was just the physically better
yeah,
team, dominant. They were dominant and gave Michael Penix a lot of trouble, especially in the second half. And so what happened was, they wore down the Oregon defense and they weren't as physical to start out, which was crazy. So they were able to wear them down and run the clock out at the end of the
yeah.
game, get those insurance scores. And that was very surprising. I think that says a lot about where Washington is as a team right now going into the playoff.
Yeah,
So,
their defensive front seven like played a lot better than I expected it to. You made the comment about Oregon being more physical before, and especially on offense they had been. But in the battle of Oregon's O line versus Washington's D line, late in the game, Washington did what they had to do to get their defense off the field and control the clock.
yeah. Yeah. The other question it's the looming one. It's
Yeah,
everybody's been talking about it. We can't go into it without talking about week in review.
yeah.
Did Florida State deserve to get in the playoff?
Deserve, yes, but maybe deserve doesn't have anything to do with it. The way I was on Locked On Ole Miss last week, and he asked me the same thing, and the way I word it as, it's not a right or wrong decision at this point. It's just people's opinions. So there's no right or wrong here. But my thought was two things are true at the same time. Florida State did get screwed, but Alabama is also one of the top 4 teams right now. Both of those two can be true at the same time, where one of them did everything that you can do to deserve to be there, but still not be in the top 4 if we were playing games tomorrow. So I think both of those things are true. If I was a voter, I probably would have had Florida State as number 4, but that's only because I would weight what you're looking at on paper more than the eye test, so to speak. And I'll be the first to say that. Yeah, like I don't think it's a right or wrong. We're in an opinion at this point, and that's okay.
Yeah, I thought Alabama was clearly the team that needed to get in as the 4, and I thought Texas had really shown, they need to get in as the 3 because Texas beat Alabama in Alabama. Granted, very different Alabama team at that point, but that's the best win in those top 6 teams, except for Alabama beating Georgia.
And
so
Michigan beating Ohio State, you could argue too.
Yeah, you could argue
those
that
were
was
the
a good
top
one
3
too,
wins all year. Yeah,
right. And so when you looked at Florida State's resume, and granted, they scheduled a big game against LSU, but LSU lost 3 games. And that's your best win. That's your signature win. I don't know, man. I can't. When you look also at the strength of schedule, Florida State was the only one out of those 5 that was outside of the top 50 in strength of schedule.
Their strength of record was really high, though, too. So I'll give them that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing, if we're talking about those best wins list, if we're making that list, number 4 and 5 might be Washington's 2 wins over Oregon.
Yeah.
Like that's where it's at right now.
Yeah. And so Florida State, just by every possible way that you looked at it, in my opinion, they were left out. They were on the outside looking in. But they had a phenomenal season, and it's tragic what happened to Jordan Travis, and we hope that he recovers and can go play in the NFL.
And if he was healthy, I don't think I think they would have made it had he been healthy, and everybody, said as much. So it was an unfortunate circumstance for them that just collapsed their season, even though they did everything they could to make the playoffs, where you could make the argument, certainly with Texas and Alabama, you didn't do everything you could because you both lost a game. Mm-hmm. So that's.
Well, we wish the best of luck, certainly, to the College Football Playoff Committee, who are now facing a lawsuit from the state of Florida. So,
which won't go anywhere, but that's okay.
No. It was funny to see that, though, especially when you go. If you go look at how the lawsuit got started and who started it on social media, the whole it's really funny when you look at it. Anyways, let's get into these games, man, because we got
Let's
a
do it.
good slate. Starting out with the 16th, we got a bunch of games on Saturday. It's gonna be a full slate, 2 games running at the same time, pretty much all day, staggered starts.
Yeah.
Georgia Southern -3.5 over Ohio. I'm gonna let you pick first here. What you got?
So this is Myrtle Beach Bowl, Conway, South Carolina, home of Coastal Carolina. I am on Georgia Southern in this game. Clay Helton has been historically very poor in bowl games. He's typically not had a healthy team in bowl games, though, which is part of it. But I'm going with them to cover and obviously win, just because Ohio has been as decimated as anybody with opt-outs and portals. They are missing Curtis Rourke, their QB left, Cy Bangura and Sean Allison, their 2 top running backs. Receivers Miles Cross, Tyler Walton, and Armani Roan all are not playing in this bowl game. So you're down to your backup QB, your 3rd running back, 3rd and 4th receivers. I don't think Ohio can muster enough offense to get a W in this game. So I am going with them, or I'm going against them. I'm going with Georgia Southern in this one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you right here because it really comes down to Curtis Rourke. Curtis Rourke was probably the best quarterback in the MAC this year, and has been the last couple years that they played. I think you could make an argument and say DeQuan Finn certainly had a really good year, but Rourke is an NFL prospect, and Finn they're still trying to figure out.
Both of those 2 are in the portal right now, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
And if we're talking about value to one's team, the last 2 years, PFF says Rourke is the most valuable player in the country to his team.
Which doesn't surprise me. I mean, when you look at that roster and the talent that's on it and the fact that they play so well, Rourke is a lot of what's behind that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a deep stacked roster, even by MAC standards. So he's done a phenomenal job getting his team to step up and play in games. He's not there. And Georgia Southern can be an offensive beast. We've seen that this year. They scored some points in some games. I'm right there with you. I think that Georgia Southern covers this one pretty easily. This one might be a little bit more of a snooze fest by the second quarter.
Could be. Yeah.
Florida A&M is even against Howard. I'll take this one. I like Florida. I think I'll really like Florida A&M in this one. Florida A&M has a lot of talent by HBCU standards. This is also the Celebration Bowl. This is played in Atlanta. These are basically the 2 top HBCU conference winners playing against each other. And both have had really phenomenal seasons. I think Howard really surprised a lot of people with how well they played this year. But Florida A&M is a very solid beast in their own. They've got a quarterback that transferred in from Vanderbilt. He's Jeremy Musa. Musa has had a really solid season. He's got receivers across the board. They've got pass rushers on defense. They're going to have a lot of guys that are going to be playing the HBCU Legacy Bowl this year. This is a talented team. Florida A&M is also not just scoring points on offense, but being pretty stout on defense most of the year. I like Florida A&M to win this one. I know that the line is really close. It's like even, and that's why we put it at even. But Howard does not have the firepower offensively to keep up with Florida A&M if they start scoring points. Howard is much more of a defensive team. They're going to lean on that. They've got a good offensive line. They're going to try to control the time of possession. But Florida A&M can score fast. So I like A&M to win this one.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I will be the first to say Howard is a team I know very little about at this point this year. But Florida A&M has consistently been solid the last couple of years. So they're coming into this game. Their only loss on the year is to FBS South Florida in a game which they were competitive. They ended up losing by 2 touchdowns. But Florida A&M's coach, Willie Simmons, is a guy to look for. He will be an FBS head coach before too long. Yep. Offensively, he does really well. Some of you may remember him early 2000s. He was a QB at Clemson and then ended up being a grad assistant there. He was a longtime coach at Middle Tennessee State before bumping down to the FCS level. And he was head coach at Prairie View. Now he's at FAMU, but he will be an FBS head coach soon. Good coach.
Yeah, and Florida A&M is, they've been a monster the last couple of years. They've been really difficult to deal with. They've had a lot of speed. They do a good job
Yeah.
finding these, diamonds in the rough and developing talent. And Jordan
Exactly.
Simmons,
I think that was exactly the last thing I was going to say. That they find those under recruited guys. Isaiah Land is a perfect example, and then they develop them.
Xavier Smith last year too. Yep.
Exactly. Oh,
So they develop guys down there, and that's Simmons, and so
yeah.
he definitely deserves a shout out. He definitely deserves the recognition for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Moving on here, we've got Jacksonville State -3 over Louisiana, another Saturday game.
I'll start off with this one if you don't mind.
Yep.
I am on the Raging Cajuns in this game.
Oh.
In what is a quasi home game for them in New Orleans. They are a team who they're missing their best, but Kendrell Grant, one of their best defensive players, is out. Jacksonville State isn't losing, but their kicker actually, I believe, is the only guy for them that is currently opted out. But Jalen Swain and Jabari Mack are both injured for Jacksonville State, and I like Louisiana's ability to run the ball in this game. It's what they've done well all year. Both of these teams are running the ball. I mean, this is going to be a quick game, lower possessions. But where we've seen Louisiana struggle is against the teams that are throwing more. That's not Jacksonville State. So I like Louisiana in a home game in a almost home game as the underdog in this one.
Interesting, because I've challenged you on that.
Okay.
I like Jacksonville State, and
Yeah.
the reason for that is what you talked about with the portal and stuff. Louisiana lost a couple of their players, as you mentioned. I think also Neil Johnson, their tight end, who's one of their leading receivers, is out as well. Yeah. He entered the portal, if I remember correctly. Jacksonville State, on the other hand, is outside of their injuries at full strength. I think they're going to come. They've been a really tough team to deal with all year.
They have.
And it's because they just make plays somehow. And it's, they got some quarterbacks that can make some plays. They got some guys that can run around and do different things. They improvise a little bit, and their defense has been really good too. Much better than we thought they were going to be coming up to this level. So I actually like Jacksonville State to take care of business against Louisiana just because, and cover the 3, because they're right now with the least affected team, one of the least affected teams out of the portal out of anybody all year. There's teams that are playing the playoff right now that aren't as affected, or that are more affected than Jacksonville State is. So I think that says a lot about Rich Rodriguez, who's done a really good job there this year as their head coach. I'm going with Jacksonville State for sure.
Okay.
Appalachian State at -6.5 over Miami of Ohio. This game is a Cure Bowl. It'll also be in Orlando, Florida on Saturday. In this one, I really like Appalachian State. And I think it's because they've really come on as a team at the end of the year. When you look at the way that they finished out the year, they are the only team that beat James Madison. They beat them on the road and went to James Madison to beat them in overtime. The winning streak that they put together, that obviously fell short when they played Troy in the Sun Belt Championship, but they found their identity and they've started to go to it, scoring points, doing a lot of different things. Miami of Ohio surprised us. I think at least surprised me. Maybe didn't surprise you as much, but surprised me in the MAC championship, coming away with it over Toledo.
It's funny. I won a challenge on that one. I didn't think they'd play as well as they did. I thought it would be like one where I was waiting it out. They just ended up being clearly the better team. So yeah, I'll be the first to, I picked them. They even played better than I thought they would. Yeah.
I'm not convinced. I'm not sold. Especially when you look at some of the games that they played in that last stretch right before they went in there, very tight games, against teams that they should have dominated against. And then also there's a few guys that they've lost to the portal as well that aren't, ideal for them. And I think
Avion Smith, Miami's QB, is the big one. Yeah.
So I like Appalachian State to take care of business and cover 6.5 here.
Yeah, this out of all of our games tonight, this was one of the two toughest for me to pick. I waffled back and forth on this one. I am going to agree with you on Appalachian State. They had a lot of opt-outs. Nate Noel, their best running back, Deshaun Davis, Donovan Spellman, one of their edge guys.
Mm-hmm.
They are missing, neither of these teams are missing a ton of guys, but they're missing some very important guys.
Mm-hmm.
Is how to look at this one. And Avion Smith, Miami's QB, who offers you almost nothing in the throwing game, but in the power running game, they're a very good team. Because him and Amos, the running back, are missed tackle monsters. They break so many tackles and create long runs. But Appalachian State's run D is decent. So for that, like I said, this is a tough one for me, but I'm going with the Mountaineers in this one.
Absolutely. There we go.
Yeah.
4 games down, 6 to go on this show. We move farther into Saturday. We've got New Mexico State minus 3.5 over Fresno State. And Mike, go ahead and take this one.
I am going with New Mexico State in this one. Mm-hmm. And I want to make a caveat with that, though. I'm on them, absolutely. But we don't quite know Diego Pavia's status yet. Jerry Kill said they are cautiously optimistic about it, which didn't give me a lot of faith. I would absolutely be on Fresno if Pavia is not playing, but with the expectation that Pavia does play, I am going to take New Mexico State in this one. Jerry Kill had an amazing season, probably a guy that should have been in the Coach of the Year discussions. He's another guy, like I mentioned, with Clay Helton. Jerry Kill's bowl record is absolutely terrible, but a lot of that comes down to when he was at Northern Illinois, they were always getting the G5 teams because they were making decent bowl games. So they were just outduted in a lot of those games. But New Mexico State basically is losing nobody good to opting out at this point. I like them to get the W against Fresno here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I like Fresno, but I like New Mexico State a whole lot more. In fact, I thought they were going to play a lot better against Liberty. I think when Pavia went down, that really hit them as they were down their third, fourth string quarterbacks, and they still tried to hang in there. They still scored some points, but ultimately it wasn't enough for them to cover and really compete in that game at the end of it. But yeah, this is a really great team. Like you said, Coach Kill, I actually voted for him because I think he was third on my Coach of the Year ballot.
Awesome. Okay.
I absolutely agree with you. He should have been in that conversation because he did a phenomenal job. This was a team that we thought was going to go down into the absolute shitter.
Yes.
Like they lost to UMass in week 0 at home by double digits, and it was like, yeah, no, they're not going to be any good. And they turned around and won 10 games, beat Auburn on the road. So they're a very strong team. Like while they might not have a lot of guys that pop at you and say, oh, he's a star player, they've got a lot of really solid guys that play well as a unit. And Fresno really wrapped up the year badly. This is one of the teams that had a really good chance of playing at the Mountain West Conference Championship game, and they blew it. They blew it at the end of the year. Like, what were they doing? Nobody knows.
Yeah, Logan Fife is in the port. Actually, he's out of the port. Logan Fife is going to Minnesota next year. Minnesota actually has 2 QB commitments. The other thing I forgot to mention for this game, Jeff Tedford will not be coaching for Fresno. He has taken a medical absence from the team. So Tedford will not be there.
And so you've lost your coach. You've lost that's tough to go into a bowl game and come out of there with a win, especially against a guy like Jerry Kill. Like, good Good luck.
And Tedford's a good, a solid veteran like that would know how to handle, the bowl preparation, and you lose that. So that's tough for them.
Yep, absolutely. And Tedford will be back next year, right?
That is the expectation. Listening to the health things, though, I have my doubts. I obviously, with something like that, I don't want to make any predictions or put too much out there. That's not official, but I think it could go either way at this point.
Okay. Good to know. Because I had heard he was coming back, but I didn't hear why he was taking the medical leave. Yeah. So next game, this is again another Saturday game, but we're getting toward the end. This is the LA Bowl in Inglewood, California. This bowl is presented by Gronk. UCLA -4 over Boise State, and I guess I will take this one.
Okay.
I like Boise to cover this. When you look at the transfer portal and how UCLA got absolutely decimated, losing a lot of star players that went into the portal, Chip Kelly being on the hot seat, wrapping up the year with a terrible loss to Cal, and then look at how Boise State, with their interim head coach, who has dropped the interim tag, by the way, and absolutely blew out UNLV in a game that we both thought UNLV was going to win.
Yeah.
They blew them out. They were phenomenal. And so they're clicking on all gears. It seems like maybe they hired the wrong head coach and they needed the assistant. He's doing great. So leave him in there. I like them to take care of a struggling UCLA team. I understand that Boise's lost their quarterback to Taysom Green and has entered the transfer portal, but or Taylon Green, whatever his name is.
Taylon Green.
I think I said Taysom because I was thinking
Taysom Hill. Arkansas
recently. Yep. Just went to Arkansas. I understand that, but they didn't play with him the entire year either. So I think they're going to be all right. UCLA is still a real struggling team. Even if Boise doesn't win, I think that they can come within a field goal. So
I do not think Boise can keep it that close because the other QB that played other than Green was Maddox Madsen, and he is hurt. So they will be down to QB3 for this game. You were right that UCLA's lost a ton of guys. They are up against, obviously, Latu is getting ready for the NFL. He was their conference's defensive player of the year, stud. J. Michael Sturdivant is going to play. He may go to the draft or portal after, but he is going to play in this game. We know that. We're thinking Ethan Garbers is going to be the QB. Dante Moore portaled. Garbers was hurt, but we're hearing he'll be ready for the bowl game. Colin Schlee could still be there. And UCLA has a lot of drama going on. Not everybody wanted Chip to be back. But like you said, Spencer Danielson is going to be Boise's full-time head coach now. But I like UCLA's ability to run the ball. Their O-line is pretty good. They kind of ended up having that 2-3-headed monster at running back. So I'm actually going to double challenge on this one. If we're
double challenge.
So, yeah.
Oh, man.
I have faith in the Bruins in this one.
Dang, we got a double challenge.
Basically playing a home game again.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Plus 10. Boise. I'm writing it down because speak it into existence. All right. Double challenge on. So you're 2 for 2 the last two episodes on double challenges. Those are the
first 2 double challenges I've ever won. But yes, I am.
Yeah, that's a little concerning now.
Yeah.
I'm not having a lot of luck with those.
Yeah.
This is the last game of the Saturday slate. It is a late kickoff. This is the Independence Bowl in Shreveport, Louisiana. Texas Tech is favored 3 points over Cal. I took the last one, Mike. Go ahead, take this one.
Okay. I am on Texas Tech in this one, and this is a knife edge one. It was close. What made me decide to go with Texas Tech here is that Baron Morton, probably their best QB, finally looks like he's healthy. He'd
Hmm.
been dinged up most of the year. Shuck is in the portal, going for his 7th year of college football next year. He will be at Louisville. We know that next year.
Yep.
But Martin is looking good. He's a good thrower. He moves around pretty well, and physically he looks like he's in the best spot he's been since we saw him in September when they took Oregon to the wire. They were a different team. They just got so beat. It was just a season of attrition for them where they just had less and less guys every week, it seemed like.
Yeah.
But I like Tech. Cal has their 2 QBs that played the most, Ben Finley and Sam Jackson, both in the portal.
Mhm.
They have multiple O-linemen in the portal on defense. Caleb Elarms or is it? I know he has the hyphenated last name. He's in the portal for them. And Angelos, one of their other linebackers, is also in the portal.
Yep.
So in what is, I think, going to be a close game, I'm going to take Texas Tech in this one, largely because I think their QB play is going to be more stable at this point.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Texas Tech, I think, is a stronger team than Cal. Cal looked really good at times, but even without looking at who they lost to the portal, Texas Tech would probably be favored to win this game. Is it Show? Tyler Show?
Shuck is how you say it. Yeah.
Okay. So for Shuck, he didn't play that much this year either.
No.
So it's not like they're losing a quarterback. They're playing with the guy that's been in there. He's struggled at times. But with all the players that Cal's missing, Texas Tech has a really good chance to just really put this one away, set the record straight, wrap up the year. They're going to be missing a couple guys too, I believe. Taj Brooks is declared for the draft. They're running their star running back, one of the best running backs. If Ollie Gordon hadn't come out, Taj Brooks would have all the accolades in the conference. And then I think they lost a slot receiver as well, Miles Price, who is also entering the draft, I believe. So there's a couple offensive playmakers for them.
Yeah, Price is also out. I see him here. Yeah.
But Price, here's the thing. Price has a backup that transferred in from Austin P that might be better than him. Just letting you know.
Okay. Jaron Bradley, one of their other receivers, is out too. See that'll affect him,
but Texas Tech should be okay. I think they're going to win this one by 3.
Okay, agree.
And now on to the next day. There is a game. This is going to be on Monday. It's a 1:30. It's the only game on Monday. Old Dominion -2.5 over Western Kentucky.
This is the last couple of years we've always had these games where there's one game where if you can properly evaluate all of the opt-outs in a game and get it right, you could make a killing in gambling. Last year it was Wisconsin, Oklahoma State. This year it might be this game. It is ridiculous the number of guys on these two teams that have entered the portal and will not play or draft. I mean, they're on Old Dominion. They're losing 3 receivers who saw significant playing time. Their best safety, one of their best D linemen, and WKU. We have Malachi Corley is apparently going to be out. Josh Stearns, receiver, who didn't play this year but had in the past. It was Jareth Stearns' younger brother. And then we have 4 O-linemen, including Quantavius Leslie, who's probably the best guard that's in the transfer portal right now. He'll probably end up at an SEC school. And then on defense, we have a starting linebacker and then 2 starting D-backs, one of whom, Upton Stout, is one of the better D-backs in the portal. So these teams are just decimated by opt-outs and portal. So this is a tough one to know, what's going to happen. I am going with ODU in this one just because I think they lost less production and the losses they had are less disruptive to their team on the whole, even though, you probably could argue either way on this one. I don't have much faith in either team at this point, but ODU had a lot of receivers that played, and they're still going to have quite a few of those guys in the bowl game. So I think their passing game will be less off key than what Western Kentucky's will be.
No, those are all good points, but there's one thing I'm going to point out about Tyson Helton, who's been the head coach at Western Kentucky now for a few years. 2-0 against Sun Belt teams in bowl games.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, interesting, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to challenge this one.
Okay.
I like Western Kentucky to come in here and take care of business, and yeah, the opt-outs are absolutely insane with this game. This really is a pick 'em. But I think Western Kentucky is going to have enough to get it done. They consistently have become, a portal, pull. This is a place where players come to play for a couple of years and then transfer up to Power 5 schools.
Yeah.
They lost a tremendous amount of talent last year, especially on their offensive line, and still came up and played decently well this year with the players that they had. They are deep for a Conference USA team, deep for a Group of 5 team. They develop their talent really well. I like them to edge out Old Dominion and cover -2 plus 2.5.
Okay. Yeah. Fair.
UTSA -9.5 over Marshall. This will be the Frisco Bowl, and this will be played on Tuesday night, the only Tuesday game at 8 p.m. And Mike, I think you got to pick on this one.
It saddens me to say this as a
Marshall.
as someone who is broadcasting live from the Marshall campus and employed by the university. I am going to lean UTSA in this one. Trey Moore, their edges out, but they're not really affected elsewhere. And Jeff Traylor is staying after, there was a lot of rumors, maybe he'd be in for Houston or Tulane, some other jobs. He's staying there. Marshall, on the other hand, Cam Fancher, their starting QB, as much as he struggled, he's portaling. Caleb Coombs started at receiver. He's out. Trent Holler, best guard, he's also out. So the one thing I'm also kind of banking on in this one, and I have no insider news on this. I will be curious if Rasheen Ali ends up playing or not. Yeah, running back, as much as he's played, again, I know nothing about that. I'm purely speculating. I think given his situation as a draftable running back, it's always a risk. So I certainly like UTSA if he's not playing. This spread is a lot more interesting if Ali is playing, because he is a stud. He's absolutely was one of the best G5 running backs. He's one of the best running backs, period, in the country.
He's going the Shrine Bowl, too.
Yep. He is. But I don't trust Marshall to be balanced enough on offense to take care of UTSA, who, by their expectations, may have had a little bit of a down year, but they're still a pretty solid team who's well balanced.
So let me ask you a question here, Hughes.
Yeah.
Is Cole Pennington playing?
Almost certainly, yes. He is. Everybody's saying he's going to be the guy for this game. Yeah.
He was a absolute joy to watch, by the way. The end of the year, coming in, playing in his dad's school, and actually giving them some offense outside the South Alabama game.
Yeah, played well against Arkansas State
and Georgia Southern, right?
Yep.
So he's been the spark that this offense has needed. UTSA has also lost a lot of guys to the portal, some of their top defensive players.
Trey Moore is out. He was their best pass rusher.
Yeah, they've got a few other guys, too, that went with them.
Yep.
And that would concern me a little bit just because, okay, you got a quarterback that you don't know that much about coming into this game that's playing pretty well, has all the emotional upside behind him because it's his dad's alma mater. His fans are behind him. Everybody's behind him in Marshall. And granted, you are playing in Frisco, Texas, which is, UTSA's backyard. But I don't know, man. I just feel like 9.5 is a lot of points to
It
cover
is. Certainly is. Yeah.
against a team that really started. They put in a freshman quarterback and he played well. So we don't know much about the freshman still. So I kind of like Marshall to cover this. I think I'm going to challenge it.
Okay.
I'm going to challenge this one because, if Ollie plays, I think between him and Pennington, they're going to be just fine. And even if he doesn't, Pennington was just good enough as a quarterback to where I think he's a difference maker on this offense. And so for those reasons, I think that they're going to cover UTSA minus 9.5.
Did you ever see Pennington play in high school by chance? I know he's a Knoxville guy. Okay.
Nope. I don't go up to Knoxville too much, man.
Okay.
That's other end of the state.
Yeah.
I went up there for Alcoa this year, dude, and
Yeah.
this Randall Cobb's alma mater?
I didn't know that. Okay.
I didn't either, but not till I went up there. But they're a phenomenal team.
Yeah.
Phenomenal
I remember
cheating
you
team.
saying that.
Yep, they cheat. That's beside the point. Yeah, I'm still salty about that one.
Yeah.
So, last game that we have to talk about, this is going to be a Thursday game, I believe. The 21st is a Thursday, I think.
Yes, Thursday the 21st. Yeah.
So, USF are 3-point underdogs to Syracuse.
They are.
And Mike, I'm gonna let you finish this one out.
This one's Boca Raton, South Florida. So Syracuse, lots of changes. Obviously, Dino is out. The interim staff is coaching in the bowl game. Very few of whom will still be with the team after that. Fran Brown, Georgia's D-backs coach, is going to be the new head man at Syracuse. He's brought in a lot of new guys. Elijah Robinson, who was Texas A&M's interim head coach and D-line coach, he's going to be the D coordinator up there. They've lost a decent amount of guys in the portal, though. Terry Lockett, D lineman, Ahmad Greenwood, safety, and then another edge guy, Leon Lowry, too. So lots of changes for Syracuse. And for South Florida, you have Lloyd Summerall, an edge, and then Will Jones, a safety who played a little bit. They were the opt-outs that I noticed. But
mostly staying together.
What's that?
Mostly staying together.
Yeah. The one thing that is an injury thing to monitor, both of USF's guards are questionable to play because of injury. They'll still be with the team. They're just dinged up. But because of all the changes in turmoil and how disappointing Syracuse has ended the last two seasons, I'm going with South Florida in this one to cover the +3. Alex Golesh had a heck of a year one. That was one of the coaching hires last offseason I wasn't sure about. I had some skepticism. He did a really good job with a roster by FBS standards. They were not very talented, and he did a heck of a job in year one.
Got him to a bowl game. Using that offense is really difficult to prepare for. And, I'm going to agree with you on this one because Syracuse does have so much going on in the background. Really hard to focus on a game, especially against an opponent that requires more focus.
Yes.
Because this opponent right here was they'll spread the field out. It's basically the Tennessee offense. They will spread the field out. They will run fast. They'll run up the middle. They're going to keep because that's where Alex Golesh was Tennessee. He's the offensive coordinator there, so he brought the offense down. And they're going to run fast. They're going to run a lot. They're going to run plays. They're going to spread you out and throw the ball all over the place. They've got a decent quarterback that can do it, and he's effective as a runner as well. I think that they're going to be okay in this one against Syracuse. And it's just Syracuse always ends up on the wrong end for some reason at the end of the year. They come down this way and don't play well at the last stretch. That's why Dino lost his job again, because it happened again. After having such a phenomenal start, can't finish the season out. I'm like stalling as I pull up my Syracuse stuff.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
But they, if you look at also the last couple of bowl games that they played in, which Syracuse has really not been in a lot lately. Lost to Minnesota
Yeah.
in 22, and then hadn't been since 18. So this is not familiar territory for them. South Florida not either, but I think South Florida's offense in a game that requires some focus, Syracuse slips up and USF wins.
I think so. Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Sweet. And that is our game wrap-ups for the week. We've got, I think next week we're not going to be able to go game by game. We're going to be picking games next week because there's so many.
Okay.
And from the 20, because we just ended on the 21st, which will be the day after our next episode.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll have probably 25 games to pick from.
Okay.
For the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Yep. So lots of good games coming up there. Also, FCS playoffs. What do you think about this North Dakota State?
They look,
not being ranked.
Yeah. I mean, they lost 3 games, obviously being a Minnesota guy. And, I'm, around a lot of those Missouri Valley teams. So get used to them. I coach guys in high school who played for NDSU and South Dakota, who they beat last week. South Dakota had beat them in the regular season, but we're now down to 4 in the FCS. NDSU travels to number 2 Montana this Saturday, and Albany travels to number 1 defending champ South Dakota State. And for those of you who aren't as up on the coaching carousel news, NDSU's 2-time winning national title head coach Matt Entz is leaving after the playoffs to go to USC to be Lincoln Riley's linebackers coach.
Interesting.
So the Bison will be looking for a new head coach. Yeah.
Interesting.
I do think it might be the easy pick, but I'm going with the Jackrabbits to repeat. They just look unbelievable again. They're well-oiled, and they're moving the ball. They're playing good defense. Last week, their game against Villanova was 45-mile-an-hour winds. So, it was almost impossible to kick or throw the ball with any effectiveness. But they put them away in the second half.
23-12 was the final on that game.
Yeah.
And, no, that's probably where it ends up. North Dakota State against South Dakota State again.
Easily could. Yep. And the Jackrabbits took care of them in the regular season this year, too.
Yep. That's what I'm expecting to see in the FCS. Well, we definitely have to talk about this because Heisman. We've been talking about that all year. We definitely have to wrap it up, especially now that the award has been given. And were you satisfied with the award and the recipient?
I was. Going into it, I was vocal that if you lose 4 games, you're not going to win the Heisman, and losing 3 is kind of iffy. But the end of the season played out well. Obviously, with Daniels, he won it. I think he deserved it. Their team was, they had already lost those games. They were playing for him to get the Heisman. They, by all accounts, were stat padding. I have no problem that you're doing. That's totally fine to do that, if you ask me. I have no problem with it. It really shouldn't affect the voting too much. But one thing we had talked about, going into the conference championship week, it would have been, had Michael Penix or Bo Nix absolutely dominated, came out, lit the world on fire, and their team won by a ton, especially Nix. That guy probably would have won it. But the way the Pac-12 title game played out, it was perfect for Daniels, because even though Penix won, he didn't play dominant. Both the QBs threw interceptions, and neither of them stood out. So after that game was over that Friday night, I kind of thought to myself, Daniels probably just won the Heisman. And looking at his numbers, what he meant to that team, it's tough to say he didn't deserve it.
Yeah, he was my pick. I think when we talked about it last week, I thought that he was going to win it. I thought that he had it pretty much in the bag, and it was because the numbers that he put up were insane. It was like first time in FBS history a quarterback throws for 300, runs for 200, like just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And hard not to give it to that guy, especially when you look at how bad that defense was this year at LSU.
Yeah.
If they don't have Jaden Daniels, how many games do they win at LSU this year? It very well could have been like 4 or 5.
I'm going to check out something quick. So I'm going to briefly look through there. So we know that they lost to Florida State, Ole Miss, and Alabama.
Yeah.
Without him, they probably also lose to Missouri.
Yep.
They had a close game. One of the real close games was against Arkansas. They probably lose that without him, just the way the game was going. They needed those points late. And I also think they probably lose to Texas A&M without him. So, yeah, they're probably 6-16 without the way he played.
Yeah.
And even though last year they won the West, if they go 6-6, we're now talking about Brian Kelly on the hot seat in his second year for the contract he's making. So, yeah, Daniels had a phenomenal season. All credit to him. Penix and Nix, great years too. They deserve to be in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And those three were, I think, by far the three front runners, the three most deserving.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I made the pointer last week. Really, Marvin Harrison was the fourth guy in New York. They probably only needed to have 3 finalists in New York. You knew they were going to be the 3 front runners in a landslide, and they were.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Now, you got anything else that you want to throw out before we wrap this up?
Some of the other big awards. Tavondre Sweat, D lineman from Texas, won the Outland. He's had a great year. Obviously, we saw him catch the touchdown pass against Oklahoma State. He's been fantastic. Air Force, excuse me, is it Troy Taylor from Air Force won the Thorpe Award as the best D-back. First Service Academy guy to ever win that. The aforementioned Marvin Harrison won the Blitnikoff Award. Brock Bowers won the Mackey Award. The first guy to ever win it 2 years in a row. I actually think that one was debatable just because of the time he missed. He's the best, certainly. But underrated guy, Dallin Holker from Colorado State's a stud and had a phenomenal year.
Yes, he is.
So I think it's okay it's worthy to talk about him. And certainly for the Heisman, or not, for the Blitnikoff, Neighbors probably had a case too. His numbers were better in some areas than Harrison's. Tory Taylor, punter from Iowa, Ray Guy Award winner. He, in the bowl game, will probably set the record for all-time punting yards in one season.
Yep. And with the 52nd pick of the NFL draft, the New England Patriots select punter Tory Taylor.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, he's great. He's going to be a relatively high pick in terms of a punter. He's another Pro Kick Australia guy. He's, I think, 25 or 26. He's certainly older, but he's a stud. And the one, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but the kicker from Miami, Ohio. He won the Groves Award. He's just a stud. It's like his numbers were unbelievable.
Borgales.
Okay. I'm blanking
Andres Borgales.
I don't think that was it because I know who you're talking about.
He's kicker Miami though, isn't he?
No, Miami, Ohio.
Oh, my bad.
I'm
on the wrong team.
You are, yeah. I'll get. I feel
because
like
that guy up there is pretty good.
Graham Nicholson. That's it.
Okay, yeah.
But he missed one field goal, no extra points. I know talking to someone who was, handicapping bowl games, and Nicholson's not playing. It was the biggest subtraction ever for a specialist in bowl game like that they'd ever seen.
Interesting.
So Graham Nicholson, well, and he was the first MAC player to ever win the Lou Groza Award. That was what I wanted to say about that.
Probably the best kicker that they've ever seen in the MAC, period.
Probably. Yeah, but it would be tough to argue that one. And then who did end up getting Coach of the Year? I know some of the conference coaches of the year. I don't know nationally who. I know Eli Drinkwitz was the SEC Coach of the Year. Mike Gundy was in the Big 12, which I had actually disagreed with. But could have been Dave Braun from Northwestern. He had a heck of a year.
Get into it. Here we go. Ball Bear Bryant. Oh, that's 2022. That's not going to help me.
Have they not announced it yet? I thought they did, but...
Yeah, I thought they did too.
Could have been Kurt Signetti, maybe?
No, they haven't announced it yet.
They haven't? Okay.
No. That's why. That's why I can't find it real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. Still, Sonny Dykes is the last winner.
Yes, so. That was certainly last year because they obviously are nowhere near it this year. That does make sense because I was like, I feel like I would have heard about that.
That would be why, yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
And then Phil Parker, I was D coordinator. He won the Broyles Award as the best assistant coach. Well deserving. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the reason they won 10 games this year.
Yeah. And sometimes we actually overplay the saying. That's actually one of those awards where they potentially could name it after Parker because he's been there so long and won the award a few times. Like there may end up being an assistant coach award named after Phil Parker someday.
Yeah, very well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I think that's going to about wrap this thing up.
I think so too. Yep.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to join us next week as we get ready to set you up for the rest of bowl season. And there's a lot of games that we'll have to pick from, a lot of games to get you money. And Mike, just again, quick reminder, here's the score.
Yep.
130 to 105. You are trimming down the lead. 25 points on the line this week with the double challenge and 3 other regulars. For Mike Huseman.
In theory, I could tie it up.
In theory, you could.
Yeah.
For Mike Huseman, I'm John Vogel, and we will be back out here next week.